Good evening. I'd like to call to order the special meeting of the Park Board of Commissioners this May 8th, 2023 at 7:30 p.m. Could I begin with a roll call?
Commissioner Duffy.
Present.
Commissioner Anderson.
Here.
Commissioner Frazier.
Here.
Commissioner Clark.
Here.
Commissioner Goebel.
Here.
Commissioner Kozlowskis.
Here.
Commissioner Murdoch.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Great. The first item on our agenda is the consent agenda. Could I have a motion to approve?
So move. Second.
All right. Any comments? Does anyone want to remove anything for any reason? Great. In that case, could I have a roll call?
Commissioner Duffy.
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson.
Yes.
Commissioner Frazier.
Yes.
Commissioner Clark.
Yes.
Commissioner Goebel.
Yes.
Commissioner Kozlowskis.
Yes.
Commissioner Murdoch.
Yes.
Consent agenda is approved.
All right. Next up on our agenda is recognition of visitors. This is just for the special meeting of the Board of Park Commissioners. There will be opportunities for public comment in future meetings. Does anyone wish to address us with respect to this meeting? This is just for, there's going to be an opportunity to address items on the regular meeting agenda later. Great. So, thank you. All right. I don't believe we have any unfinished business, so the only item on our agenda under new business is consideration of Resolution 2023-R-4 commemorating Lindsay Anderson.
I move to approve Resolution 2023-R4, a resolution commemorating the contributions of Lindsay Anderson.
And a second?
I second.
We have something to read.
Second.
We all second. It's a unanimous group second.
Whereas Lindsay Anderson has faithfully served on the Board of Commissioners of the Wilmette Park District since October 2021 and has, during her term in office, been a member of the Real Estate Committee, Golf Operations Committee, Lakefront Operations Committee, as well as a member of the Committee of Whole. And whereas Lindsay Anderson was instrumental as a park commissioner in the renovation of Lakeview Center, the renovation of the Maple Park Playground, the K Nature Center Path and Nature Play Areas, the Community Playfields Path, the Wilmette Golf Club Cart Path, the new bathrooms at Community Playfields, the upgrades to the new center fitness layout, the renovation of the Wilmette Golf Club Restaurant, the Wilmette Platform Tennis, addition of 2 courts, and the expansion of the warming hut, and the various improvements to both indoor and outdoor tennis. And whereas Lindsay Anderson has been very responsive to the citizens of Wilmette with regard to their desires and concerns pertaining to the Park District projects, and has selflessly served to provide excellent Park District facilities and programs for the community. And whereas the Board of Park Commissioners and the community at large wish to recognize the excellent and dedicated service and accomplishments of Lindsay Anderson during her tenure on the Board of Commissioners of the Wilmette Park District. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Commissioners of the Wilmette Park District, on behalf of all Wilmette residents and the users of Wilmette Park District facilities, does hereby acknowledge and pay tribute to Lindsay Anderson for her contributions to parks and recreation in Wilmette, and that we express our sincere thanks and respect for her, and be it further resolved that a copy of this testimonial resolution shall be duly executed and included and preserved in the meeting minutes of the Board of Commissioners of the Wilmette Park District, and that the original of this resolution shall be presented to Lindsay Anderson.
Wonderful. My words won't be nearly as eloquent, but Lindsay, I just want to let you know how much I've enjoyed working with you over the past couple of years. And I certainly hope you're going to be back with us sometime in the not too distant future. So that's my plug.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, I'll echo that. Lindsay, your contribution to the board has been amazing, and the experience you've brought with your knowledge of the school boards and the other things you've done in the community have all, as well as the greater state of Illinois, have all added a lot to the board, and it's been a pleasure to serve with you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Sure. Let's do that. And could we have a roll call?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. We got to make it official.
Sure. Commissioner Duffy.
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson.
Yes.
Commissioner Frazier.
Yes.
Commissioner Clark.
Yes.
Commissioner Goebel.
Yes.
Commissioner Kozlowskis.
Yes.
Commissioner Murdoch.
Yes.
Resolution is approved.
So I would like to present this to you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And, oh, yes, if I could, and in the interest of time, I know there's a big meeting after this. It's been such a privilege to serve as part of the Wilmette Park District team, and just didn't even just truly appreciate the talented staff, the dedication of the board, and just all of your unique perspectives and the value that they bring. It's just been such an honor to serve alongside the entire team. So I'm so grateful for the opportunity. But with that, I'll keep my comments short, almost as short as my time on the board. But I'm so grateful for all of you and your service and the opportunity to have been part of this special team.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll move to adjourn.
All right. Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Don't have too much fun, Patrick.
Oh, you know me, I'm always going to push buttons.
All right. So we're going to call the annual meeting.
Yep, I know. I'm just pulling it up, the agenda up real quick for me. I would now like to call to order the annual meeting of the Board of Park Commissioners. Again, Monday, May 8th, 2023 at 7:36 p.m. Can we begin with a roll call?
Sure. Commissioner Duffy?
Present.
Commissioner Frazier?
Here.
Commissioner Clark?
Here.
Commissioner Goebel?
Here.
Commissioner Kozlowskis?
Here.
Commissioner Murdoch?
Here.
Great. First order of business tonight will be to administer the oath of office. So those who are newly elected, please line up here in front, and I'll come down to the lectern.
You can be wherever you want.
Hey, Patrick. All right.
All right. We're going to raise our right hand. We're going to do this in small chunks, and the hard part is the first 4 words. So, I state your name.
I, Julia Goebel,
Having been elected to the office of Commissioner
have been elected to the office of Commissioner
of the Park District of Wilmette
of the Park District of Wilmette
in the County of Cook,
in the County of Cook,
State of Illinois,
State of Illinois,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of Commissioner
of the office of Commissioner
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations to you all.
For now, yeah.
Well, fine. I'm not running this meeting anymore.
All right.
Aren't you? Oh,
No,
nobody
no,
runs this
Steve.
section?
All right,
runs
so we
this
officially
section.
have a junior high dance going, boys and girls. All right,
Well
good to
played.
see. All right, so next on the agenda is the election of officers. As we currently do not have a president, I will entertain nominations for the office of president.
I would like to nominate Kara Kozlowskis for the role of president, please.
Duly noted.
I'll second.
We don't need a second yet. Any other nominations for the office of president? All right, hearing none, can I get a motion that nominations be closed and that Kara Kozlowskis be unanimously elected to the office of president?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, meeting is yours.
First official vote.
I will entertain nominations for the office of Vice President.
Yes, I would like to nominate Patrick Duffy for the office of Vice President.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Do we have any other nominations? Okay, if the office of Vice President is unopposed, then we shall move to unanimously elect Patrick Duffy to the office of Vice President. Do we signal that by
So moved.
saying aye?
So moved, someone say so moved.
So moved.
Someone say second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Congratulations.
Congratulations.
All right.
You guys rotate. I'm going to stay over here.
Favor?
Rotation.
Okay. Next, we need to appoint a secretary. Would someone like to make that motion?
I'll move to approve the appointment of Stephen P. Wilson for the office of secretary, Michelle Parson as the assistant secretary, and Sheila Foy as treasurer.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Am I allowed to move things?
You can.
I move to approve the appointment of Tressler LLP as the Wilmette Park District's legal.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we have now elected our officers. Can I have a motion to adjourn the annual board meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Plus?
All right.
Straight into it, or do we
Roll.
have to music?
Roll right into it.
Unless you guys want to switch, but I'll keep it straight.
I asked. She said,
All right.
next meeting.
Looking for my next agenda.
There you go.
Okay. At this point, I will call to order the regular meeting of the Board of Park Commissioners for Monday, May 8th. May I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Leahy.
Here.
Commissioner Murdoch.
Here.
Commissioner Frazier.
Here.
Commissioner Clark.
Here.
Commissioner Goebel.
Here.
Commissioner Duffy.
Here.
Commissioner Kozlowskis.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Great, thank you. So tonight's meeting, we are going to begin with the community survey presentation before the rest of our regular agenda. Director Wilson, will you explain to us how this is going to work, please?
Sure. We have with us Jeff Andreessen from Acuity Insights, Research and Insights. They were the part of our consulting team who facilitated the survey that we all received in our homes, either by postcard or the full survey mailed to us. He's going to give us a high-level summary of everything. He'll then entertain questions from the board. After that, we're going to open it up to the public to give public comment, but also to ask any questions they may have in addition to what the board has asked. The consultants will then come back up to the lectern and answer the questions from the public as well as best they can. So with that,
Great.
Jeff Andreessen.
Thank you. Nice to be with all of you again and here to present the high-level results from the community survey that we did. I don't know if this is moving forward, Steve.
It's working
We're
there.
not projecting.
Yeah, they're not projecting yet.
Oh, okay.
We're not getting them.
Oh, because we're not plugged in.
Not plugged in.
Don't mind me.
So just a reminder, this was a survey that
to know what I'm
included
good
the
at.
entire community. We sent out, as Steve mentioned, the postcards inviting people to participate in the survey.
Excuse me, I just wanted to note, for the audience, the HVAC is quite loud in the back of the room. You will be able to hear better if you move forward. And also if you could project.
Okay.
That would be helpful.
So these are directional. Just make sure they point right at you. And then, you know.
I might have to lean over. How's that?
There you go.
Yes.
Okay. So again, this survey was, or invitations to the survey were sent to every household. Residents received either a postcard with the survey URL and a PIN so that they could complete it online. They also, I think this is the wrong, this isn't the presentation one.
The appendix, it looks like to me.
That's it. Thank you. Or they received the full questionnaire in the mail as well. Regardless of which option they received, they were given instructions on how they could complete the survey another way, either by mail, online, or by phone. Again, it was sent to roughly just over 10,000 households throughout the community. Data collection began in early February and wrapped up in mid-March, so about 5 or 6 weeks for data collection. We had just over 1,200 respondents, so about a 12% response rate, which is higher than normal. When we do these community surveys for other agencies, we typically get a 5, 6, 8% response rate. So the response rate in Wilmette was more than double what we typically see. We also allowed people to, if they wanted to receive a separate link, if they had a spouse or partner or another adult member of their household who wished to respond to the survey, they could do so. However, every PIN was unique to an individual, so once that PIN was used, they couldn't complete another survey. So it prevented people from trying to game the survey and provide multiple responses. Everybody had an equal chance to be included. There were only about a dozen households that had two different individuals respond. Most people completed the survey online, about 2/3. The rest did it by mail. Nobody did it over the phone. The full report gives a little more detail about the weighting that we did. So for 1,200 respondents, we looked at their self-reported demographics, their age, their gender, their race, ethnicity, as well as where they live. Since we mailed these, we knew exactly where the respondents lived. We compared that to census data from 2020 and from some of the projections from 2021, and we weighted our sample of 1,200 to match the demographics and the regional distribution of the entire population. So we know from a demographic standpoint, in terms of, again, age, gender, where they live, whether or not they have children under age 18 in the household, that this sample is representative of the entire community, even though only 12% responded. We know that they're reflective of the entire community. In the report, there is much more detail and breakdown of the results by subgroups. We only report differences that are statistically meaningful at the 95% level. So the odds that those appear as a meaningful difference are there because only a 1 out of 20 chance would they appear randomly. So we're 95% confident that those differences are meaningful. The report has the demographic profile that you can see in front of you for the sample population, and also a map that shows the distribution of the survey respondents based on the 5 regions that you see there. Again, these are the weighted percentages. The actual response was a little bit different. In an earlier meeting, we shared with you that 8% of the responses came from the West region, when in fact the West region represents 11%. So we weighted the data to make sure that that 8% now looks like 11% and accounts for 11% of our sample. The East region had a higher response rate, so we weighted that to match its 29% representation of the community. The survey begins very broad and asks residents for their overall opinion of the Park District on a 0 through 10 scale. A 5 is a neutral score, so anything 6 or higher is favorable, and that's represented in those green sections of that bar that you can see there. Anything below a 5, 0 through 4, is an unfavorable rating, and you can see that overall 88% of the residents have a positive opinion of the Park District overall, including just over a third will give you the highest rating, scores of 9 or 10 on a 0 through 10 scale. By comparison, 7% have an unfavorable opinion of the Park District, and the remaining 5% are neutral. Most of the neutral responses are people who don't have a very strong opinion either way. They're familiar with you, but they don't really know very much about you. The average rating on that 0 through 10 scale is a 7.7, which is considered very positive. And the ratio of positive to negative ratings is 11 to 1. So for every person who's unhappy with you or has a negative opinion of you, there are 11 who have a positive opinion of you. We also did a statewide benchmark last year for the Illinois Association of Park Districts, a survey statewide of just over 2,000 residents served by a park district, and that provides us with some benchmarking comparisons to show you how residents in Wilmette feel about this agency compared to residents elsewhere in the state. Chronologically, from left to right, your scores, the 7.7 at the top in particular, is right in the midst of the ratings that we see for other neighboring districts. Glenview at 8.2, the Park District of Highland Park at 7.6, and then within that bracketed box, those results from that statewide survey, that 7.9 is the aggregate average rating from Glencoe, Winnetka, Kenilworth, Northfield, Northbrook, Skokie, and Glenview together as an aggregate. So you, again, can see that your overall ratings are very comparable to these nearby agencies and well above the state average. We then ask residents to tell us what they like most about the Park District, what they think your strengths are, and then we code those responses. If somebody gave 7 things that they like about you, we coded all 7 responses and then and then analyze them accordingly. And we group here the top positive comments that they mention about the district, and you can see by a large margin, your top strength is your programming, the range, the number, the variety of programs that you offer for all the various age groups. The responses represented by green are reflecting responses regarding parks in general, or the slightly lighter green, Gilson Park in particular, is something that they especially like or appreciate about the Park District. A wide variety of parks, the beaches, Gilson in general, the swimming beach at Gilson, and so on. Youth programs also came up as in the top 3 responses, along with the overall programs. And you can see that there's a fairly broad representation of different aspects of the Park District that come up in these top responses, beyond the parks in Gilson Park, which tend to represent the top responses. You can also see that a number of these are mentioned by about 1 out of 10 or more residents, overall showing that there's a fair level of agreement on the things that they like most about the Park District. When we follow that up with an open-ended that asks, what don't you like about the Park District, or what are its weaknesses, or what do you think it needs to do to improve, we see much less consensus. Only one response came up at 10%, and that had to do with fees or costs in general. Everything else came in no higher than 7%. And again, you can see from the color coding that the distribution of these responses touch on a number of areas: parks, facilities, programs, administration, Centennial specifically. There are some things that are consistent here. The number 2 response was from residents who feel the parks are too developed. They want to keep more open space. And then further down, 3rd or 4th from the bottom is specifically to keep Gilson parks in particular green or natural. So where we could specify a park, if an individual park was mentioned for any of these, more amenities, fewer amenities, more improvement, lower fees, we pulled out the specific park. But if it was just the parks in general are too much this or not enough that, we coded it that way. Aside from fees, other admin or staff-related issues that came up had to do with a wide range of things. The website, just hard to navigate, registration in general, not enough staff at some locations or turnover of staff, the need for the district to listen more, a number of very, very scattered responses there. The other thing I'll point out is at the very bottom, 8%, the second largest response was from people who said, I can't think of anything I dislike. I'm satisfied overall. So again, no real consensus on the improvement or negative responses. Certainly far less than what we saw on the positive side. When we ask about usage of the parks and facilities, virtually everybody report that someone in their household has been to one of your parks in the past year, parks, playgrounds, or nature areas. And you can see those that come up on top, not surprisingly, is Gilson. Virtually everybody who's been to a park has been to Gilson at least once in the past year, followed by Centennial, and then about half have also said they've been on the Green Bay Trail. When we look at those responses by region, the very top row shows that the overall percent shows, again, that 11% of residents live in the west, 20% in the south central, and so on. When we look and see where the respondents who said, I've been to Gilson Park, live, we see a slightly higher percentage of those Gilson Park users living in the east, not surprisingly, because Gilson is right there, right in their backyard. And likewise, for most of the remaining parks and playgrounds and nature areas, we see that these locations are drawing primarily more often from their immediate area. There are a few exceptions. Bateman toward the bottom is somewhat reflective of the overall population, and even Gilson for that point is drawing fairly evenly from across the community. Just a little bit more from the east, but everywhere else, those percentages line up with the overall percent of respondents. All other locations, however, are drawing more from their immediate area. When we ask their satisfaction with the experience at those parks, the scores are even higher, at least as high, if not stronger, than the overall esteem ratings. The vast majority are at least somewhat satisfied, and on a number of these, you get close to or at least half, giving you the top scores of 9s or 10s, with the highest ratings going to overall safety, where your average score is an 8.4, which is very, very positive, very strong. We likewise asked about usage of Park District facilities in the past year, and again, virtually everybody, 94%, said their household has been to at least one of the facilities, and you can see those that come up most often. Specifically at Gilson, it's the swimming beach and then the beach house, by roughly 2/3 of those park users. For Centennial Rec, it's primarily the pool. For the community rec center, it's more spread out, but most often the fitness center. And those who are going to the golf club are going about equally for the restaurant, the driving range, or the golf course. It's a pretty even level of usage at the golf club. When we look at that regional breakout of users of those facilities, the first thing you'll notice is that some of these are drawing pretty evenly across the entire community, especially the swimming beach and the beach house at Gilson, the ice rink, indoor tennis courts at Centennial, the gymnastics gym, the sports gym at the CRC, and the golf club, and all the amenities at the golf club are attracting people from throughout the community, not just those who live closest to those facilities. Likewise, the Wilmette Paddle Tennis Club toward the bottom. When we ask about satisfaction with the Park District facilities, again, we see even higher scores for the facilities than we saw for the parks and playgrounds and nature areas themselves. Almost all of them are averaging 8.0 or higher, which again is very positive. And once again, safety is the attribute that they're most satisfied with at those locations. For the relatively few who said that they've not been to one of your parks or facilities in the past year, we asked why not. We gave them a number of possible reasons. And again, they could select as many as possible. And by far, the clearest reason or barrier to using or taking advantage of the parks or facilities are people saying, I don't have any children or my children are grown. And the connection or the perception is that for them, they see the parks as being specifically more for youth or young families. And once my kids are grown, there's not as much for me. And so it's a perception that we see on almost every district that we do these surveys for. Agencies do a great job with children and young families. They do a great job with seniors and active older adults, but it's those kind of empty nesters, that in-between group, that often feels that they're not as aware of what's available to them. The other barriers or reasons had to do with just lifestyle or preferences. I'm too busy, I don't have time. I have health issues, I'm just not interested in anything that's offered. A few people said they go elsewhere for recreation or fitness, and you can see that those responses were very scattered. There was no one source of competition among the non-users. We then start asking some questions to help with the plan updates to understand where the demand is highest for outdoor facilities. And so we tested about a dozen outdoor amenities or facilities and asked if each of these is something that's of interest, of need, or is currently being used by their household. The majority, 3 out of 4 people, said yes, we want trails, we use trails, we like trails. And almost as many, 60%, said the same for open space or natural areas for passive recreation. Nearly half, at least a third to almost half, also expressed a need or interest in outdoor pool or water park, outdoor concert facility, picnic shelters, or sites, and or nature play areas for children. At least a quarter likewise expressed a need or interest for sports fields, fenced-in dog park, or outdoor pickleball courts. and the remaining items there were of interest to almost 1 out of 5 people each. So then what we do is we ask residents who say that they're interested in each of those, we ask them on a 1 to 5 scale, how well is your need for X currently being met, whether by the park district or any other source. Maybe they go to a forest preserve for passive recreation. Maybe they go to a nearby community for tennis courts or pickleball courts or picnic shelters or whatever it might be. And we have them rate that availability on a 1 to 5 scale. Of 1 meaning my need is not being met at all, a 5 meaning my need is currently being met completely. I'm able to find trails. I'm able to find any of these outdoor facilities. And then we plot those on a matrix or on a grid. So the vertical axis on the left shows the level of demand, and you can see the red diamond in the middle for trails was the one that came in at 75% demand. So that aligns with the vertical margin. The horizontal from left to right shows the percent who said that my needs are mostly or completely being met, a 4 or a 5 on that 5-point scale. So the items in the upper right are high demand, and most people expressing an interest in natural areas are saying that their need or interest is currently mostly or completely being met. Roughly almost 60% of those interested in natural areas feel that way. In the upper left, trails, which came in as the top outdoor amenity that they're interested in or that they need, less than half felt that they have enough trails currently in their area to meet their need or their level of interest. So that represents a higher priority or higher opportunity to be addressed. In the lower right are items that scored slightly less than half in demand, but for those who are interested in those, a majority feel that they're currently available. Outdoor pool and water park, concert facility, athletic fields, platform tennis seem to be readily available for those who are interested. And then finally, those in the lower left are those that, again, have lower levels of demand, but have fewer people saying that those are readily available to them. Now, 2 of those right in the middle, picnic shelters and areas and nature play, they fell just short of that 50% saying my needs are being met. So they're pretty close. But some of the others that are further to the left, fenced-in dog park, pickleball courts, and the neighborhood splash pads, those had higher levels of demand and lower levels of people interested in those saying that their needs are currently being met. So those are represented as kind of the upper end of those lower priority needs. Any questions on that before I move on? Because I'm going to show a couple more of these.
I thought this was a particularly interesting visual, and it was helpful to understand that for the most part, it appears needs are being met. And that where there's interest, trails, which on the surface, the one word isn't quite as expansive as it is in elsewhere, which I know means hiking, walking, and biking trails. So a few kinds of trails.
Right.
So I thought that was an interesting distinction.
Right. And trails could mean, it depends on the community. Trails could mean just more trails, or trails mean we have a lot of trails, but not a lot of connectivity. So I've got little park trails, but getting from A to B is a little more challenging. We then wrap up this series of questions to ask, well, if the park district had one priority, if it could do one thing to add or improve or provide, which of these outdoor facilities or amenities should be their priority? And again, the number one response was trails for hiking and walking and biking. The second response that came up most often was none of these. And again, a lot of that reflects to all of those little items you saw to the right of that 2x2 chart that showed we're in pretty good shape for a lot of these. There's really not a gap here. But the other thing to keep in mind here, ranking third and fourth are a fenced-in dog park and pickleball courts, lower percents at 8 and 11%. But if you remember on that first chart, they were much further down the list. So somebody might be interested in 4 or 5 of these things. But those who included a dog park among their 4 or 5, when asked, well, which one's most important, dog park tended to rise to the top. Those who mentioned a number of things, and if they included outdoor pickleball, well, if you can only do one thing, what would it be? Pickleball rose to the top. the rank order of this, number one priority question is different from that initial demand question.
So as we look at this percentage, we're talking about the 2101 respondents, right? So 23% of the 2101, right?
1201.
1201, I'm sorry.
That's
1201.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yes.
Transposing numbers, yeah. I'm 110% here.
Close. Yes,
All
that's
right,
right.
so just referring back to the whole number, not the end number that was before, that was like 16. I can't remember. Earlier we talked about 1139 responding.
No, this
Right.
is completely separate from that,
total number,
from that earlier
yeah.
question. Yes. We then ask the same series of questions about indoor facilities. You can see those here. Here we don't see as much consensus like we did for trails and natural areas, but we get close to half of the residents saying that they have a need or an interest for an indoor pool at 46%, followed closely by indoor fitness and an exercise facility. And then everybody else kind of falls in this 15 to 23% range across most of the remaining indoor facilities that you see there. And again, 1 in 5 at the bottom, close to 1 in 5, 18% felt that their household didn't really need or have a use or potential use. When we again ask them how well are each of these needs being met, whether by the park district or anybody else, again, we see most or a number of items in that far right area where those who are interested in fitness, indoor ice, indoor tennis, early childhood and gymnastics feel that their needs are mostly or completely being met already. And the opportunities to the left, the one that stands out the most is an indoor pool. Again, 46% feel they have a need for an indoor pool, and only somewhere probably around 8 or 9% feel that that need is currently being met. So they're obviously going somewhere for an indoor pool. Everything else comes up in a lower level of demand and therefore scatters a little bit below the indoor pool. And then finally, when we ask which one of those indoor facilities should be the top priority for the park district, given that it had the highest demand and relatively low supply or low availability, an indoor pool comes up at 29%, followed closely by none of these are a priority for me. And then everything else is roughly 1 in 10 say indoor fitness, which is already being met, indoor pickleball, which was on the unmet needs side, and active older adult center at 8%, also on the unmet needs side. So they're not necessarily saying, even though indoor fitness is my number 2 priority, that doesn't mean I need more fitness. It just means it's a priority. So keep up, keep what you have, keep maintaining and improving it. We then moved on to programs. Roughly half of the respondents said that they or someone in their household had participated in a park district program in the previous 12 months. Those who said no, I have not, were asked why not. And again, by far the largest reason was my kids are grown or we don't have children. They might be young people who don't have children yet. They might be empty nesters. But that was the top reason for non-program participation. For those who have participated in a program in the past year, again, very positive ratings overall, 7.6. Not quite as high as the scores for the parks and the facilities, but still very, very positive, with over a third giving you 9s and 10s and only 8% dissatisfied. The full report also has some explanation behind the lower ratings, both for the program scores and the earlier parks and facility scores. People who were giving neutral ratings or lower, we ask, why are you not more satisfied? When we ask about the needs assessment questions for programs, 2 again come up on top. Fitness and wellness programs is of interest to 44%, followed closely by pool and aquatics. About a third mentioned environmental and nature programs, followed by sports and athletic programs. And then the rest are mentioned for the most part by about a quarter each, with paddle tennis programs or lessons coming in at 16%, and another 16% didn't express any interest in any of these. When we plot those, sports and athletics and tennis programs and lessons, for those who are interested in those options, feel that they're readily available. Fitness and wellness and sailing programs and paddle programs come pretty close to being met. Just under half of people who are interested in those programs feel that they're readily available. But the larger gaps are for pool and aquatics, environmental and nature, and pickleball programs. One of the things that we heard about Centennial and the pool was requests for longer hours and more time dedicated for lap swimming. And some of that is probably feeding into the pool and aquatics here. We have a pool, but I'm just not able to use it as long or when I'd like to be able to use it, or it's very crowded. And then finally, when we ask for the top priority for programs, the number one response is none. I will call you back to that pie chart that showed half of the residents don't participate in programs or haven't in the past year, and most of them are probably in that 23% who say, I haven't participated and I'm probably not going to participate, just by my choice. About 1 in 5 are most interested in pool and aquatics, and then at least 10% the remaining top 3, fitness and wellness, which was close to being met, environmental, and then pickleball programs. When we asked in an open-ended question what programs they would residents would like the Park District to provide for youth, and we broke out youth for preschool ages 5 and younger, children ages 6 to 12, and teens ages 13 to 17. You can see the categories that come up most often. Clearly, swimming and aquatics and diving programs is a top response across all age groups. Fine arts for the youngest group, basketball for teens, volunteerism and community outreach came up somewhat frequently for teens as well. Yes.
Did you ask, I mean, I filled out the survey, I just don't recall, was the entire body answering this question? For example, were there 75-year-old people who were answering this, maybe thinking about their grandkids, or was it mostly families thinking about their own kids? Was there any way to...
Was it?
There were children in the
If there were, this was only for people who had children in the household?
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Good question.
And then we asked the same question for adults, breaking those out between younger adults under age 35, adults 35 to 59, and then older active and seniors ages 60 plus. And you can see the differences here for the racket sports. The dynamic here is that tennis came up most often for the youngest adults. Racket sports, paddle, badminton, platform tennis, ping pong came up for that middle-aged group, and then when you start moving into pickleball, it's in that middle group and older. So there's this kind of continuum where there's this transition from tennis to other racket sports to pickleball by age. The oldest group is by far the most interested in the wellness programs and options. We then tested 7 core values for the Park District. We first asked residents to read each value and its description, and then rank the importance of the top 3, indicating which one was most important, second, and third in that order. And you can see that roughly half or more included 5 of the 7 items in their top 3. Health and wellness at number 1, stewardship and sustainability, followed by public safety, customer experience, and fiscal responsibility. And those first 4 from customer experience and up garnered at least 1 out of 5 who said that's my number 1 most important value, in my opinion, for the district. We then asked, after ranking the order, in which of these they feel the district is doing a good job currently and is on top of, and which area does the district need to be doing more. And again, they could select multiple items. They could select the same items, saying, I think you're doing a good job and you can be doing more. So when we plot those responses, the percentages in blue show the positive scores or the positive responses that the district is doing a good job or fulfilling those values. Those in red show the percent who feel that the district needs to be doing more. And these are rank ordered top to bottom in terms of importance. So again, health and wellness, the number one most important item, you're in the net, positive. More than 3 to 1 saying you're doing a good job in that area as opposed to you need to be doing more. Residents are almost evenly divided on number 2, sustainability and stewardship. Public safety, which we saw in those earlier slides as one of your key strengths across your parks and facilities, is reflected here as well. They think you're doing a terrific job. Very few people feel you need to be doing more in public safety. Similarly, customer experience, almost 2 to 1 positive to negative. More divided on fiscal responsibility, a small plurality to the positive. Your area of weakness or opportunity is on innovation. Only 7% feel you're especially innovative. 31% feel you could be more in that area. Accessibility and inclusion, 2 to 1 to the positive. And then that bottom chart, you had 12% saying none of these represent strengths. And you had 26% saying none of these represent weaknesses. So again, 2 to 1 positive in terms of none of these, none of the responses. But again, public safety and health and wellness and customer experience are where your positive responses are clearly outweighing the negatives. When we ask about potential park district improvements and reminding people that any of these could mean higher fees and or property taxes, just a simple willingness to pay question, really more to see where the priorities are rather than to assess, well, we've got a majority supporting this or not. What you can see is the vast majority, 69% or more, say they're willing to pay for an indoor pool and or to acquire property for added open space and or for park amenities like benches and those sorts of things. Not as many, but a majority also express a willingness to pay for that second tier of improvements: outdoor pickleball, indoor gym space and pickleball courts, and a fenced-in dog park. Again, reflecting some of the responses that we saw in the needs assessment. And then they're more divided or more opposed, less supportive of paying for an indoor playground, an indoor turf field, or additional sheets of ice at the indoor ice rink. Again, much more detail in the full report in terms of where the support or opposition tends to come from. But again, this gives you a rough idea of the rank ordering. The one thing I will call out here, and this is not unique to Wilmette as well, remember when the dog park people moved up in ranking? When you look at fenced-in dog park, you see a spike in the strong support, the dark green, coming up for that. So again, those who want a dog park really want a dog park. When we ask which one initiative would they support the most, again, an indoor pool, open space come up, and then a dog park ranks third, followed by outdoor pickleball. But still, 1 in 5 saying, I'm not supportive of any of these. And again, those folks are profiled in the full report as well. For those who expressed interest in a pool, an indoor pool initially, we asked what features they would like, and most often they want just open water for recreation and lap lanes. And again, that gets back to some of the feedback that we saw about need for more lap lanes or lap times, hours that are currently available. We wrapped up the survey by asking where they get their information about the park district. The good news is that most people are getting them from you directly, either your website or mailings or newsletters, emails that are going out. About a third are getting it from the village or from word of mouth, which could be good or bad. They could be talking you up and making people more aware of what you're offering or the great experience they had at a program, or it could be something else. 32% said it's specifically coming from the digital program guide on the website specifically. And then the rest followed from there. When we follow up and ask what is their preferred source, again, the vast majority say, I want to get my information on the website with a distant second coming in from your other mailings or newsletters. And then we offered an opportunity for any final comments, suggestions, additional feedback that residents would want to offer. A lot of this repeated what they had mentioned earlier. And again, the responses are very scattered, but the top answers you can see there are keep the parks open or improve the parks, more efforts to beautify, better landscaping, more, simple amenities. A number of admin and management related comments about spending, about enforcing rules at some of the parks and beaches, more communication, more outreach, and then some of the facilities round out the bottom tier of those responses as well, including 5% who echo the request for an indoor pool, and fewer responses from that plan. So I feel like I've given you a lot of information, and in the report there's even more, but I'm happy to answer any questions you have or that the public has.
I have a quick one to start. I have a couple, but since we were just on that slide on page 32, I just want your opinion on the best way to digest this information, because I see the total percent support column, and I heard you make reference specifically to the dark green. So respondents really were in favor of an indoor pool because that dark green is such a robust number.
Right.
My eye goes to the red, of course, as we get lower, because these are things that people are asking for. And yet, if you're looking, I also see, I'll take indoor turf field, since that's, the indoor playground, since that's easier math, with 49% opposed to it. Is that how I should process that information? Or should I just be looking at that green? Tell me how to think about that.
So the first thing I would do is just focus on the rank order to see where in a very broad, very non-specific question. We don't know where the indoor pool is going to go. We don't know what the cost is going to be. We don't know what it's going to look like or what features it's going to have. But just conceptually, are you willing to pay for an indoor pool? That ranks up much higher than many of the other items here. So the rank order is the first thing.
Okay.
What you just keyed in on, though, the strong support versus the strong opposition, is also one of the first things I look at. How many people really want this, and how many people really oppose this?
Okay.
And what is that ratio? So when you look at an indoor pool, you've got 42% who are strongly supported, and about a third as many who are strongly opposed. So it's 70-30. That's almost 3-to-1 or 2-to-1, not quite, but the strong to opposition is closer to 3-to-1.
So compare it against itself and not against others.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, if you look at the second one down at 69%, it has almost the same level of overall support, but its ratio of strong support to opposition is much smaller.
Okay.
Most of that support is not strong.
All right, thank you, that's helpful. I do have another question. Since I'm on it, I might as well continue. One of the first things that I noticed, going back to slide 4, I think it's represented here, yeah. And I think it might even be on slide 5 that I'm linking it to. The fewest number of respondents, let me see where I am, are in the two age groups under 35 and 35 to 44. And I noticed that they are also the least satisfied with our park district as a whole. Can you just walk me through so I can understand better how they're represented, linked to the census, making it statistically valid, so that though they're least represented, we're understanding where their dissatisfaction comes from and where it links in the presentation?
So the numbers that you see on slide 4, those are almost identical to census
Okay.
census data. So if you look at adults and under 35 is really, we're looking for heads of households. So we're looking at like 22 to 35. We're not going down to age 18. We're looking for heads of household who are responding to the entire household. So census data is going to reflect that. This is something else that we also see in other agencies where lower ratings, surprisingly, it's been surprising to me, often come from younger adults. But a lot of that is tied to not having children. So it's young people who aren't having children yet or are waiting to have children, who aren't as involved in the park district or are going elsewhere for recreation or fitness or socializing or whatever their interests might be, where they're not unhappy with the park district. Their scores just aren't as high as others. So instead of being in the mid sevens, they're in the high 6s, low 7s.
Okay.
So it's important to know that they're not dissatisfied. They're just not as satisfied as older residents.
Quick question about this slide. Am I doing the math wrong in the length of residence? Does that equal more than 100? Am I missing something there?
Yes, you're right. We'll have to look at that. Thank you.
No, it's
No,
not.
no,
It's too much for around
we're-
here.
Yeah. it's-
We're at 50% at 19 years almost.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. We'll look at that.
While we're looking at that, I was curious if there's any cross-research with the length of residency in Wilmette along with that age in terms of, to Ally's point about the satisfaction, if there was any correlation that you might bubble up about that with the younger demographic in particular who has perhaps the less satisfaction with their length in Wilmette.
Yeah, we certainly saw, I mean, there's obviously a clear correlation with older people who are longer-term residents who've been in the community for 30 or 40 years. Consistently, they tended to give some of the highest ratings. I can't necessarily say that conversely the newest residents line up with that youngest group. I don't know that it was that close of a correlation between younger people not living here as long. They might have grown up here. So they might be in their 30s and they've lived here 30 years. So I, off the top of my head, I can't speak to if it's newer residents who are less satisfied.
One of the things that I saw about newer residents later in the report where you were doing more of the cross tabulating, right, was that it was newer residents that were like, there were first category was 5 years and less, and then the second category was 6 to 10 years of residency,
5 to 9 or something,
so something like that. And then they also were asking for more programming than, and I was wondering if that was just a lack of experience with the park district. I mean, is there a way to gauge that, or? Because it seemed to me that jumped out in a couple of categories. Like the first one I noticed was with the pool. You know, they were looking for more programming, unless I read that wrong, because it's not in this part of the report. It's in the agenda online as you go deep into that report.
I was reading that more as a dissatisfaction with the current programming. That's how I read it.
That it was. See, and I was wondering if it is. Are they just not familiar with what's offered, or is there any way to figure that part out?
It's hard to know for the programming specifically.
Yeah.
Their responses in terms of where they get their information from is by how long they've lived here. They tend to go more right to the website, so they're going to the source.
Yeah.
It's not like they're relying on word of mouth or the village or social media or whatever it might be. I mean, they're coming to the website to get that information,
So they should be fully exposed to what's available.
you would think.
On aggregate, do you find that the younger groups are more dissatisfied and the older groups are more satisfied with their park districts? So I guess I'm wanting a little more comparison to that we started with. What do people want elsewhere in terms of customer service or the satisfaction level? It's tough for me to think about this stuff in this bubble.
So in other agencies, we often see that younger age group does tend to score their park district lower, not just in Wilmette, but in other communities as well. And a lot of that, again, tracks to whether or not they have children. If they've got children and they're involved in the programs, those younger people are just as satisfied as other program users or other older people who are involved in the parks and facilities and programs. But it's the younger group that tends to not yet have a family or
Right.
not yet have children who tend to be less focused or less involved in those programs.
So-
Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I don't know if this will help because I want to fully clarify. So on this slide, for example, let's look at children in household. Is that 57% without children in their household, 57% of our N1201? Or with respect to how you weighted this to census data, can you give me a tangible number?
Yeah, it's what percent of our sample, based on the census data, said, I don't have a child under 18. If I have an adult child, I'm still a no here. So a child in the household means currently I have a child who's under the age of 18 in my household. And 57% said, nope, there's nobody here in that age group. And 43% said, yes, we have a child under the age of 18 in our household.
So when we trickle down or we slide down to one of those slides, like one of the commissioners asked, was this slide specifically asked to everyone or just the households with children? The respondents to that slide that was specifically asked to households with children, was that 43% of our sample, of our 1201?
That question about children's youth
Yeah.
programs was asked of the 43%.
Okay,
Question about adult programs was asked to the entire sample.
sure, fair enough.
So-
Great discussion.
Yeah, and I just had a quick question also based on, because you're saying it's weighted to the census data. And I'm not sure I fully understand that, because you think on the response, you would do just, of the response, I'm not sure how you would weight, like the 1201 to response. I could see some areas, for example, the West, maybe weighting those responses a little bit more because there were fewer responses, but I'm not sure on the children or how that's related, or is that how, and then I'm sorry, so could you just kind of explain how you weight it to the census data?
So typically, in almost every survey, not that only that we do, but everybody does, different groups respond differently. People who live in a community a long time, older residents, have higher response rates than younger people, newer residents. People of color have much lower response rates than those not of color. So despite our best efforts, our sample doesn't always line up with census data. And so in the programs that we use for the analysis, we can assign a weight so that we know, okay, people in this age group under 35, we should have 9% of our sample in that age group. We've got 6%. So taking that into consideration, whether or not they have children, if they're male or female, if they're white or non-white, if they live in this region versus the others, we can assign a weight to those people. And so somebody under the age of 35 who lives in this region might be represented as 1.15 people.
Okay.
Now, we're not analyzing that person as 1.15 because they're part of a group. So that weighting is showing us whether they're in this age group or whether they're in that region or whether they're in this racial category. We've got, for each of those segments, the appropriate representation here. If we didn't weight, this would be skewed older, long-term resident, upper income. It would be skewed toward homeowners. It would be skewed away from renters, younger people, newer residents, households of color. And we wouldn't have a representative sample then. So our weighting process in the software that we use, again, pulls those people in the aggregate to look like this, so that when we're looking at differences by age group, we know that analysis is not skewed to older and skewed away from younger, or skewed toward homeowner and skewed away from renter.
Okay.
So it's a value that's assigned to each case and then analyzed in the aggregate accordingly.
Okay, and I noticed in some of the responses, you also kind of noted when there was a quadrant that might have been above what would have been expected, and that, but you don't do it in other responses. And this, I know I don't want to bring part of mine because you point out that there was a negative percent. People had a negative view toward the park district, and I've sometimes wondered, does it negatively? Is there a particular quadrant that might have a higher response that was negative than another response? So I'm just kind of curious as of how it applies on the villages, if one area had a more negative view or if one area had a more positive view. And so I don't know if that is not always present, or can that information be provided?
So are you referring to where we're calling out where the scores are higher or lower for some groups versus others?
There was that, but I guess this was kind of a question I first had when I saw the different, right at the beginning where it has, the overall esteem for the park district, and generally it's very high, but there's still about a 7% that had negative, and I was just curious whether that percentage is that overall, or is there a particular quadrant that might be skewing that to that 7%?
So in the full report, that 7%, obviously with those lower scores, they're going to have a lower average rating. Your overall average is 7.7 on that 0 to 10 scale. Mm-hmm. So in the full report, we show where that average is statistically lower than that 7.7 average. I don't think there was any group that gave you a negative rating on average. They were probably giving you ratings around 6, mid 6s.
Okay.
But if there are enough cases and their score is lower enough below that average, they will be called out in the report. If you see a group that you saw elsewhere, well, this group is really unhappy with us on all these other things, but they're not appearing as being unhappy with us here, it's because on this particular question, there wasn't enough of a meaningful difference statistically in their lower rating. Maybe they were at 7.5 instead of 7.7, and it just wasn't as much of a difference to be statistically significant.
Cecilia, if I'm understanding you correctly, I see the information broken down satisfaction-wise based on age, and what I'm hearing you ask is, do we have information based on geography that shows their satisfaction based on where they live? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That region will be in there as well. So if there's a meaningful difference by what part of Wilmette
Yes.
they live in,
Yes.
if it's statistically meaningful, it's in the report.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
First of all, one of the things we do as a board is try to anticipate and look ahead at what's next. And I found the verbatim comments incredibly helpful because they give context and color to the high level summary. We're always looking for comparison of what we can do better. Are we meeting the needs? And on slides 30 and 31, describing the core values, I found it really helpful to look at where there are perceived strengths, where we're performing, where we could expand. And I would love some commentary on innovation and the notion of, and on the definition. The word itself is one thing, but the definition is really helpful. Engaging with recreation, fitness, and open space experts as well as other agencies to keep up and evolve over time. I mention this because in the comments there are occasional comments around maintenance or update or look ahead to trends. There was a mention of a climbing wall or pickleball periodically. How should we think about innovation, and what do you see in surveys like this compared with other districts? How would you guide us on that topic?
Well, and the reason we ask the importance first is we rather than just say, well, here's where you're strong and here's where you're weak, it's not enough to know, well, that assumes all of those are of equal importance to residents. Mm-hmm. And clearly they're not. Innovation is important. About a third say it's one of their top 3, but relative to some of the other goals or objectives, it ranks further down.
Yeah.
So that's the first point of perspective or context that I would
Sure,
put that in.
sure.
The other is, again, you saw how fragmented the responses are,
They really are.
open-ended comments in terms of what could the district be doing better, or how could your needs be better met, or what additional feedback would you want? So I would look to some of those comments, and we're happy to go back and dig further in the data to see the people who are unhappy with innovation or rank it number one, to see if there's anything from that open-ended feedback as examples. Again, they're going to be examples, and as fragmented as the responses are, we might come back with you and say, yeah, there's 20 people here and they want 20 different things.
Yeah, it may not be meaningful
Right.
in the end,
Right.
but I think it's helpful to show the rank order. And on the whole, the people who participated, while giving us good feedback and ways to optimize, are generally happy. And that's also meaningful. So, thank you.
This end of the table?
Yeah, of the N1201, how many finished the survey?
Virtually all.
Virtually all? Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
Did you have any
The-
abandons?
Yeah, that was
Non-completes?
the drop-offs.
How about this, was our percentage of those that didn't finish or abandoned consistent with others that you've seen?
well, it's hard to say with paper surveys, because when you get to the demographics, there might be 7 demographic questions, they might answer 2 of them. But the vast majority got at least
Okay.
some of the demographics done.
Glenview and Highland Park were on here as comparables. Has greater thought been given to what our true comparisons are with neighboring park districts? I don't think I really know.
That might come to a Barry Dunn question
Yeah.
down the
Yeah.
road
For sure.
for the strategy.
We included them just because we've recently done those surveys.
Okay.
So we were able to pull from our data. And that
Nice
statewide
data to
survey.
have, that's great.
That was a question I had. Have you, your agency has completed the surveys for all those that are in that, like, 6 or 7 districts in the nearby PD benchmark?
That was a statewide survey, and so we didn't do the work for those districts. It was a
Oh, you pulled
statewide
the
survey.
subset data.
We pulled those zip codes. And so we pulled the Northbrook, the Glenview, the Highland Park, the Glencoe zip codes for that aggregate.
So we would have participated in that statewide survey as well.
Some of your residents did, yes.
It would be interesting to look at Wilmette's results just from the statewide to see.
Probably aren't that many to, it was
not that much to be
2,000
meaningful.
people from the entire state. If I showed you the dot map like I did for Wilmette, or for the Wilmette Park District survey, it would be hard to see maybe 6, 8 people from Wilmette out of 2,000 statewide.
Fair enough.
The one thing that, kind of struck me as I was going through it, we were impacted a lot by public comment that, the park district doesn't do a good job at this, doesn't do a good job at that. And yet, as you go through the survey, what are top priorities? 24% say no, and we don't want you to change, or how do you feel about programming? 23% don't want more programming. Or down here with the final open-ended question, you got the number one response, aside from we're very pleased with the park district, which was 19%, and then the next one, keep parks natural and open, was 11%. So it feels like the park district is doing a good job.
Again, your ratings are right in line with everybody else. The overwhelming majority, a clear majority, are happy with you overall. Consistently, there's this, I would say it's probably around 8 or 9% at least, to maybe, if I go back to this question,
Yep.
the 12% that said, there's nothing you're doing well.
Right. But 23%, right?
No,
Or 12%.
The 12% who said, your strength is none of the above.
Right. But
So it's somewhere in that 8 to 12% that are not happy.
right. And so then, now you took me off my follow-up question. It'll come to me when it's not important. So thanks. I can't think of it right now. I can always email you, yeah.
Can I ask one more? Maybe we can-
Just to follow up, those questions you were referencing, that, X percent not wanting any of those programs, and X percent want, I mean, those could be a combination of people. I don't want any outdoor facilities because I want everything to stay natural. Or
Right.
it could be, I don't want any because I'm not going to use them. I go elsewhere, or it's just not of interest to me.
Right. So what it led to was a frustration on personally me and in side comments sometimes with others involved, whether it's staff or other commissioners occasionally. We're in a mature community, right, where there's really not a lot of room for expansion. And so, where is space to buy more land to create another park or to create an indoor pool if this is, a direction that we end up headed? It's a severe challenge for us in this community. And yet what I did note was the responses from people that said, oh, we don't have this, but I am finding it in a nearby community or facility. And so it is. So that goes to some of the charts, the 4 quadrants where we have this demand, but my requirements are being mostly met. So is that a fair assessment of the overall picture for demand of services that the Park District can supply?
Right. And again, what the survey is doing is it's showing you where something like an indoor pool ranks in terms of priorities.
Right.
By no means would I say this represents a community need that, if you went to referendum to build a pool, that it would pass. Because, as you said, your options are limited and the details are important. Where is it going to be? How big is it going to be? How do we build it? And then how do we maintain it once it's built? Those are all critical questions. And if an agency were looking to do that, you would want to test all of those specifics to help answer those questions, because this won't answer those questions.
Right. So then, to Barry Dunn, the question is: will there be a follow-up survey, kind of drilling down on some of this? Like, well, hey, there's a demand for pool, but is there a taste for adding money to, say, a tax bill to build a pool, as an example? Is that something that's to come? No.
Not through this part of the process, but the results of the plan might indicate that, yes, in the future, you want to survey the public. It won't be a part of this process.
Okay, understood. Thank you very much.
Along those lines, slide 20 and 23, I believe, were where you force ranked the indoor priorities and then the outdoor priorities. Was there any, my guess is no, but is there a way to combine those and have a sense of if the respondent had to select only one? We didn't get to the next level.
Oh, but
right?
between
Correct.
One indoor and one outdoor?
Correct. Not yet.
The quick answer is no. I mean, if trails is number one among the outdoor and an indoor pool is at 29, yeah, I would say I would.
It's hard to even make a
No, it's 23 and
connection there.
29. I mean,
Because it's against the options that they had, though.
Yeah, the
in that
one thing
list.
I would not lose sight on these slides, though, is that bottom bar,
Right.
the 24%. I mean, that was the second biggest response for indoor facilities.
Right.
It was much smaller for outdoor, but still
Second.
fairly large.
Yeah.
That's why we call that bottom bar out, because none of these things are free goods. Pools cost money, trails cost money, acquisition costs money, but at the same time, not everybody wants something.
Right.
There are 16 to 20% on facilities and even more on programs saying, I'm good the way it is, I don't need any more.
So to that statement, it's in a way, it's 1 in 5 or 1 in 6 are saying, hey, you got us covered.
Right.
Right.
In the full report? Yeah, go ahead.
No, so 84% of the people are saying I want something, and 16% of the people are saying I don't want
And the
anything.
84% are split on
Which
what it is.
thing it
whatever
is.
it might be.
Right.
In the full report, is there anything that says if they wanted trails, they want nothing in indoor, or if they wanted nothing outdoor, they want
There's no
nothing?
correlation between the
No.
two.
I'm just curious.
No. There's so many options
Right.
here. The
I just
crosstab would
figured I'd
be,
ask.
Yeah.
it would get very small sample size
Right.
very quickly.
If memory serves me, this was again an example of where the age groups was pretty, it informed the choice within these categories, correct? Where respondents 65 plus were typically the ones saying no growth, no building.
Well,
And
they wanted more, they wanted fitness and.
Fitness and wellness.
Wellness
Right.
was their top priority, but it also showed that in the quadrant that it was being met.
Mm-hmm.
But so in that part that I was going cross-eyed with, you start reading into the age groups and what they're interested in and what they're not. And that's where the young family stuck out about swimming needs and child care services. But then when you look at what was being met, it seemed like we were meeting it.
Right.
As you jump back.
yeah, I don't think that surprised me. I would put that to my fellow commissioners that it seems that families new to the area with young children who were less satisfied with what we currently offered, were more interested in increasing programming and different things, amenities and growth, whereas residents who have lived here, and I'm sorry, I forget the numbers, 20 to even 40 plus years, were less interested in and more interested in please leave it alone, do not grow. I wasn't terribly surprised by that. I don't know if
And of all of those, if we were to run a regression on every single question, my guess is that the stronger differentiator would be, are there children in the household or not?
yes.
That would be the stronger separation point than age or how long someone has lived in the community.
And that's where I am curious, because you seemed to believe that 35 and underrepresented households without children. My thought would be the opposite of that would really encompass many of the younger new families in our community.
It's a mix.
Okay.
It's going to include young adults who have children, and because the adults are so young, they're going to be younger children. It's going to be also young adults who aren't having families yet,
Okay.
who are waiting, who aren't married, who aren't, for whatever reason, they're not having children.
I would venture to speculate there also may be a correlation between ability to take the time to complete the survey and the age and stage of where households may be at.
Yeah, I just think it's an interesting differentiator because you either have dissatisfaction because they are not yet using the programs and therefore don't have awareness, as Patrick was saying, about what's offered, or they are here, they're new, and maybe have a different place to compare it to and want what was provided elsewhere before. So I think that distinction in the younger age groups it would help inform me on where some of these questions were answered.
And to your point, I don't have hard data for this, but the younger people who probably, if they've got children, probably don't have the time to fill out the survey.
Correct.
What we know anecdotally, and again, I don't have hard numbers for this, the people who tend to respond to the survey for Park District have a connection to the Park District. They use you, they love you, they like you, they're unhappy with you, they're going to let you know about it.
Right.
And it's the people who are in the middle who, oh yeah, the park, yeah, I kind of go to the park, but I don't have any real need or anything I need to give feedback on. They tend to be the non-respondents. And again, they might have children, they may not. They might be long-term residents, they might be here for a year.
So really, it's the nature of research. The people who are moved to participate have an opinion in one way or another.
It's like voter turnout.
Yeah, yeah.
Can I also ask though, I mean, until you analyze this and prepare it, can we really draw any conclusions from this data? It almost sounds like, because there's so much of a difference, where you're talking about difference in ages and how people have different feelings about different things. It just even seems like the more, like I'm hearing it, like until you can really dig into the data and start to analyze it, I don't know. I mean, this is all information, but I don't know if we can we really draw any conclusions from this?
Again, I think for the most part, the overall findings give a great deal of direction. The details in terms of who supports this, who opposes it, who likes this, who doesn't like this, who wants this, who doesn't want this, should be referenced when you're looking at something specific. So at some point, if you're looking at, hey, let's revisit an indoor pool, well, let's go back to the survey to see where did it rank in terms of willingness to pay, and who were those strong supporters versus the strong opponents, and where do they live, or how long have they lived here? Are they looking for something for kids, or are they looking for lab swimming or adults? We had that separate question that said, what pool amenities do you want? An open pool, lab lanes, warm water therapy, sauna, those sorts of things. When you need the detail on a specific initiative or proposal, the details in the report. To read it all now and try and keep it all in your head, I couldn't do it, and I'm reading it every day. So that's how I would use this as a reference point, both now and going forward. And again, Barry Dunn is going to be pulling all of this in to put it in even clearer context with the other information that they've been gathering.
So to the point that you just made about, deeper into the information, as an example, the pool, by different age groups, this is what they were interested in. And I remember going through that. Is there any point to doing a third cross with where people live of that age that want this? Or it shouldn't matter where people live relative to what amenities they require of the park district or want to use?
If in one of those tables you see households with children are more likely to say they want a pool, and then households in the north central region and south central region are more likely to say they want a pool, odds are
it's the same.
It's the households with children in those two regions are especially interested.
Right.
I'm not guaranteeing it, but more times than not, those will align.
Right, but in the one where you had the age group, we want the warm pool, for, I can't remember what you called it, the relaxation pool, and then there's a certain age group. It's not in this, it's deep into the full. It's not, it's in the full report.
Okay.
It's not in what you've got right here. So if people want to see what I'm referring to, you can go online and pull up the agenda and go down to like page 200 and something. And it talks about, you did age group versus what they would like out of a pool. And my question then is there a point to even ask where they live in the village relative to their age and what their requirements are of that amenity? Or do you really, it doesn't matter where they live because it's an amenity that everybody in the community uses? Is that?
I mean, we could look at the regional distribution.
The only place that came up was you were looking at existing facilities and where do people live. It's one of the charts that you did show. 36% of the people that live in the east use the paddle facility, or and 20% of the people that live in west use it, or whatever the numbers are. But that was never like an age correlation with that. And deeper into the survey, you do an age correlation with demand for facilities, and then if they want facilities, what are they looking for in those facilities?
Right.
So deeper down, you didn't compare where people lived relative to what they wanted.
We did. If there was no meaningful difference, we don't report it.
We don't add it. Okay.
Only if a region is completely different from all the other regions, higher or lower, or more or less interested, then we would call it out.
Call it out, yeah.
If you don't see demographic or region difference, it's because
There was,
it's not
it
worth
didn't matter.
reporting.
Okay, all right, understood. Thank you.
I am so pleased that we have such a high response rate, at least according to you, that this is significantly higher than you
I wish it were higher,
see.
but I'll take 12%.
Thanks to all the commissioners, our advisory panel, our public for helping to drive participation to what we got. I think we're hearing loud and clear the data can be crossed in many, many ways, much more detailed than we're seeing today. But thank you for keeping it at this level that is somewhat digestible and still has warranted a lot of discussion. At this point, commissioners, if we're good with questions, let's open it up to the public who's been so patient and see if there's further questions out there. And certainly if we have any more, we can bring those back here at the end. So if you would like to come up and ask a question, we'll receive all the questions first, and then Jeff can respond to them once we've concluded. So can I see a show of hands if you'd like to come up? One brave soul. Okay. Guess it's you, Walter. There's no more hands up behind you.
Wasn't so much a question. You're talking about the young people. What I'm wondering is that the income level in Wilmette and what you need to live here, could that be a factor that these are young, two working professional people making a hell of a lot of money who can afford to live here, don't have kids yet because they're working, and so they don't need Park District things. They've got their private athletic clubs and stuff downtown or wherever too. So that's something to think about. It may not be just, young kids. We don't have poor people in Wilmette, really. So.
Is there anyone else that has a question specifically for Acuity tonight?
Wonderful.
Oh, look at that.
Great.
Good job, Jeff.
Have any response?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, anything further? No? No. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for a robust discussion. Thank you, Jeff and team.
Thank you.
That will bring us back to, that brings us to communications and correspondence on our agenda, of which there are a handful of letters in the packet. Steve, I don't believe there was anything else we need to speak to for communications and correspondence. Public comment and recognition of visitors. Would anyone like to address the board on a different topic this evening? Okay, we'll work our way across the room. You guys can come up. Steve will keep time, and we'll ask that you state your name and then keep your comments to 3 minutes. The board will not respond directly, but we will note any questions, and someone from staff will respond in the next few business days.
Good evening, Joel Epstein, co-founder of Wilmette Pickleball Association, 120 members strong. I see that in the packet there were a lot of letters from tennis players who are upset about the fact that there may be pickleball courts taking over. I know the board has also expressed their opinion about not wanting to take any space away from a current activity, which makes total sense. I was over by 4th and Linden last week, and in the middle of the day, and their parking lot is virtually empty, sitting there, waiting for us. Opportunity is there. Next to the train tracks, there's a park to the south, there's downtown, that section of town. There's real opportunity to lease, buy space there without having to disrupt any of the tennis players. So I'm hoping that the board will look at that. And also, immediately, we can tape the courts, the tennis court that exists for pickleball, slide 2 nets in there next week and start playing. Deerfield, Glencoe, Glenview, Skokie, and Highland Park have all added to their existing inventory of pickleball courts in their town. So I urge the board and the director of the Parks and Rec Department to please move on this so we can get playing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hello, Alyssa Morganti, 1330 Sheridan Road. Thank you, Steve, for notifying us last week that the Illinois Capital Development Board responded to the Smith Group's query about whether the path at Langdon needs to be ADA compliant. The Langdon group of concerned residents, also about 120 strong, used this weekend to identify many times that we have been told by Smith Group that Langdon does not need to be ADA compliant. On November 4th, 2013, Mr. Landi of Smith Group told the then Board of Commissioners that Langdon did not need to be compliant if the beach at Gilson is compliant. The $14.5 million fully designed scheme by Smith Group put it to vote in 2015. They also told us that Langdon did not need to be ADA compliant. A memo dated January of 2021, when Steve Wilson was vetting the Smith Group to be hired for the revetment work at Langdon, he was told by Smith Group that Langdon did not need to be ADA compliant when we were looking at the referendum, we determined that the ADA code requires 1 out of every 3 public beaches to be ADA compliant, and that's that. And lastly, on this is, and just in August of 2022, Smith Group said here in this room at the board meeting that the long ADA ramp they had designed was unnecessary for code compliance. My question is, what did Smith Group present to or submit to the Capital Development Board of Illinois that would have allowed them to come back with such a ruling? It is Smith Group's job to have done all this code search before they began any work. They are wasting our time and our money if they don't know this before they started designing. The documents that Smith Group submitted should have been submitted with the argument already spelled out to the CDBI organization, so that the answer could only be that Langdon does not need to be ADA compliant, which then would have given the village the permit. There is a lot of gray area in the CDBI code book regarding beach access. I've read this. You have to present your argument with it. So I am curious, what did they present that could come back with such an ambiguous ruling to say maybe it has to be ADA? They have to go in with the information. No, it doesn't have to be ADA. So I want to know who is driving the bus on this project. I feel like we're being pulled around by the tail.
We're at 3 minutes.
And wasting time. And all we want is access to the path and open the beach this summer. And the beach will be used this summer. There's no question. There's people already down there this weekend swimming. So there won't be a lifeguard there. It'll be very dangerous.
Thank you.
Who else?
Good evening. Amy Boyer, 1028 Sheridan. First of all, congratulations all the newly elected members and the re-elected members. I'm here to talk about Langdon Beach. So Steve, thank you for your memo saying that the Illinois Capital Development Board came back with a ruling. And I just wanted to follow up on what Alyssa said on regarding Steve, your memo from January of 2021. When you're talking about access design, you specifically say it was determined that to make Langdon Beach ADA compliant would materially impact the natural landscape of the bluff or be cost prohibitive to install other ADA options such as a lift or elevator. And I believe that's still the case. That hasn't changed. In researching what the Illinois Capital Development Board actually requires, we found this. And I'm happy to email this to everyone. I didn't have time tonight. It's over 250 pages, but we took a look at just the pertinent pages. Okay, page 252, there are conditions for exceptions. Compliance is not practicable due to terrain. Compliance cannot be accomplished with the prevailing construction practices. Compliance would fundamentally alter the function or purpose of the facility or setting. Compliance is limited or precluded by any of the following laws or decisions: Endangered Species Act, National Environmental Policy Act, National Historic Preservation Act, Wilderness Act, other federal, state, or local laws, the purpose of which is to preserve threatened or endangered species, environment, archaeological, cultural, historical, or other significant natural features. We all know we have a beautiful bluff there with existing oak trees, and I think we've already studied this. And I know, Steve Wilson, you know the rules. You told us that you don't believe it needs to be ADA compliant, and we trust you. So we're hoping that we can pull back that application. I believe Smith Group submitted it, and perhaps have Tressler LLP, work and raise these exceptions. And this seems like a simple problem to correct. Thank you.
Was there anyone else that had raised their hand to address the board tonight?
I was going to comment that the new website looks great, a lot of good things there. The one thing I would comment is the agendas and minutes section only goes back 5 years to 2019, whereas the other one went back lots more. So the stuff is there, it's digital, it's just for some reason and maybe they just haven't put it in yet, but it would sure be nice if all that stuff was put up there.
Thank you. Is that all? Okay. Thank you, everyone. That concludes public comment. Steve, Executive Director's report.
Great, thank you. First two items are in our review mirror tonight, so I'll skip those. Pickleball, you have an updated estimate of cost. The numbers have come down as the design has gotten more detailed. Just a friendly reminder, this is an estimate. Nothing becomes real until we do a bid process. Obviously, these dollar amounts are over the state threshold, which is $30,000, so a bid will be required, but we're moving in that direction. Things are looking good. Also, Superintendent Solberg is working on adding lines at Hibbard Park and Maple Park, talking to contractors of color coding and painting and getting everything lined up to do the rollaway nets sooner than later, so we are definitely working on that. Wallace Bowl, note in here, no different than what we talked about at the Committee of the Whole meeting. Foundation is working on their fundraising strategy. Next item is the Village Leaf Blower Ordinance. I've had several people reach out to me on this topic, including members of this board, asking for clarification of why the Park District is exempted from the ordinance. And really what it is, it's a spirit of the two staff working together, the village staff and the Park District staff, to convert our equipment over to electric as much as possible when it makes sense, both environmentally and fiscally. So I want to make sure it's clear that we are not anti-electric equipment. We are not pro-gas equipment. We are working in that direction. It's just to take some time to change out our equipment on an as-needed basis is the approach we're taking. Lastly, Langdon, as we just heard from members of our community, want to remind everyone that outside of ADA, we've been requesting letters of no opinion from multiple regulatory bodies. We did receive the Natural Resources, but we have not received the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers or the EPA's. The Army Corps of Engineers indicated that tomorrow they'll let us know kind of what they're thinking and when they might tell us the final answer. So we'll update you when we get that. And then on the ADA topic, just as background and refresher, our staff and our consultants met Village of Wilmette engineers on site. That was when we were requested by the Village of Wilmette to make this request of the Capital Development Board, which is a division of the state of Illinois, to get the determination from them instead of having the determination made locally. And that's when we asked some more questions, submitted our application, and we've received the response we received. We are still working to get answers to subsequent questions that we hope bring clarity and possibly a different answer than what we have at the moment. But at this time, we have not had any more communications in response to our questions from the Capital Development Board, but we will continue to try and get those.
To clarify, that also includes the temporary path, so.
That is where many of our questions lie of is this also for the temporary path? If the temporary path was not considered to be temporary and more the permanent solution, what would be the adjudication of that? And so we have a series of questions in place to try and understand all the options before us, all the different moving parts of all the options.
So if I understand right, leading up to the meeting with the village, we all believed, and you believed, staff believed, engineers believed, that ADA compliance was fine because of Gilson. And then we have a meeting with the village, and village says, well, why don't you check with this entity that we've never had to deal with before and see if you need ADA. And that entity, which is a state body, said, oh, no, we think you need ADA compliance. So it was a change brought on at the request of the village staff.
Correct. I had never heard of the Capital Development Board until I was updated about that conversation. And yes, it was the Village of Wilmette who asked us to inquire and apply to the Capital Development Board.
Okay, so you don't really know the history of the Capital Development Board? I was just kind of curious.
I'm learning them right now.
Yeah, okay.
But back to one of the residents' comments, are we getting legal counsel involved? Because obviously it's a matter of reviewing. Okay, so we're getting all the best help we can to try to get a different outcome here. Great.
Yep.
It's fine.
That concludes my report. Oh, wait, sorry. Surplus ordinances. Standard business, when we get rid of items that we've purchased that are capital in nature, the board must take official action to denote it as surplus property so it can be disposed, either by throwing it away or putting it up for auction or other methods of disposal. So you have two of those under new business later on in your agenda. Now, that concludes my report.
Should I make a shout out to Christy and Jason for dealing with the literal dumpster fire that we had?
I was going to say, let's.
Okay, so if people haven't heard, let's tell the story. Last week, a waste management truck had its load catch on fire. It pulled into the Centennial parking lot, dumped its burning load in the center of the parking lot. Fire department came out to extinguish the fire. In that process, the hydrant, once in action, broke a pipe that led into Centennial right in front of the entrance. So Christy and her staff were on site to assess the water issues and get the parking lot put back together. And Jason Stanislaw is our general manager at Centennial Recreation Complex, managed his staff and the patrons to evacuate the building because the water had to be turned off completely. And when you don't have water service into a building, you can't have people in it. So they worked to evacuate. Our marketing team worked to communicate it to the public, both when we had to shut down Centennial, but also when we reopened the next day. And I guess a special thank you to Kerrigan Plumbing for being on site so quickly and working through the night, and to the Village of Wilmette Public Works Department, who made it very clear to us that no matter what time of night we get a fix in place, they'll come back out and turn the water on so the public could resume use of the building as soon as possible. So everyone worked together really nicely to address a very unique situation that I hope never repeats itself.
Thank you for the update. Patrick, you want to do your typical highlight?
Don't we have to do the
surplus ordinances?
Do our new business.
We do, but I was thinking that it was still within the.
Oh, hey, I'll take it.
I thought I got to do that because I'm sitting in Patrick's seat. It's not my spot.
Mr. President.
In the future meetings, Steve, I would love to have the staff report as a delineated
It would be
Okay.
nice.
business item.
Yes.
So
I
that
think-
we can
yes,
have an
Madam
appropriate
President.
place, non-debating, whatever we call on it.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, I'll take a motion for the surplus ordinance.
Yes, I move to approve ordinance 2023-05, an ordinance authorizing the disposal of certain surplus property owned by the Wilmette Park District.
Second.
And that's 05 that you're doing first. That's fine. Okay.
04
Oh, either one.
The motion is for 04.
Got it.
is for 04.
Second on the motion for 04.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Duffy.
Yes.
Oh, gosh, I'm reading the old order. I'm so sorry. Commissioner Leahy.
Yes.
We're just going to go with it. Commissioner Frazier.
Yes.
Commissioner Clark.
Yes.
Commissioner Goebel.
Yes.
Commissioner Kozlowskis.
Yes.
Commissioner Murdoch.
Yes.
Ordinance is approved. I'll do better next time.
Matter which way.
And then we also, can I have a motion for ordinance 2023-05?
I move to approve ordinance 2023-05, which is an ordinance authorizing the disposal of certain surplus property owned by the Wilmette Park District.
Second.
Discussion, no, roll call?
Commissioner Leahy.
Yes.
Commissioner Murdoch.
Yes.
Commissioner Frazier.
Yes.
Commissioner Clark.
Yes.
Commissioner Goble.
Yes.
Commissioner Duffy.
Yes.
Commissioner Kozlowskis.
Yes.
Ordinance is approved.
Yeah, I was thinking that same thing as he went back through it. So I'm going to jump on this right now. Please look at the back of your packet. Staff is doing amazing work, not just not just Christie staff, which has built a lot of things for the beach, for the pool, they've cleaned the clubhouse at the golf course, they patched the pool in a couple of places, they replaced parts of the pool, filtration system. And then you also look at, which is now, I believe, Lindsay's staff, who is doing the special events with the kids in the parks. Who's got all the
Recreation staff.
Recreation. Okay, that's not Christie now? I mean, that's not Lindsay now?
Nope.
All right. Anyway, there's a lot of programming updates down here, as in particular about the different camp registrations and how full they are and how staff is trying to find more employees to accommodate demand. So I think that it's really important to call out how great the Park District staff does work.
That would be pages 350s to 366 of your packet. It's worth getting to the end, friends. It really is. There's the good stuff. With that, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Awesome. I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.